Welcome to another episode of Show Friday. In this week's episode I'm going to talk about the most underappreciated varieties of all ball pythons. I'm talking about the OGs, the most vanilla flavor of all flavors, and literally the blueprint of them all. Of course I'm talking about the classic ball python. My name is Robert Bronkhorst. Welcome to Roundhog Serpents. I've talked about the importance of classics in the Show Friday episode in the past, but that was on Instagram. And in order to make sure that I repeat myself as much as possible, I'm going to rant about this subject again here on YouTube. Now, don't disregard the value of classics. They have feelings too. They are beautiful in their own way. Can't you see that? Why does everything have to be different to be wanted? Why don't you all just love ball pythons? Why don't you all just love the classics? The classical ball pythons? Like I do. Anyway, classic ball pythons are really good for beginner breeders. And I really felt like I need to talk about this subject again due to last week's episode where I talked about how to learn IDing Sandblast and IDing XOLB, two very subtle genes where very little is known about. Now, classic ball pythons is a really great way to start your ball python journey because they enable you to truly learn, and I will sum up the reasons why, because I know it sounds crazy, right? Now, when everything is all about high value animals and multiple recessive animals, it really feels like a lot of steps back into the hobby to breed with classic ball pythons, but I think especially if you are a beginner, it is critical to do so. Okay, so it's been a couple of days now since I've shot the video that you are watching now, and I think I really messed up the first bullet point, because the first bullet point was classics are a great way to check if you are in it for the hobby, and I think I messed that up because it probably will not be about classics. Checking for yourself if you are really in it for the hobby is more buying what you actually like, and that can be a very expensive animal. For now, example, it can be a monarch or it can be a puzzle, which are expensive genes. If that's really what you like, yeah, you could do it. But for instance, for monarch, you could also go black pastel ultramel or something like that, a little bit less expensive. And for puzzle, you can make take some NG clown combinations. Or it's not quite the same, and if you really know about the genetics, it definitely is not the same. But if you are a beginner, I think that is good enough, right? If it looks close enough, that probably will be good enough to really set you up and start you up. Now, checking if you are really in it for the hobby comes from, there is a loose idea. If you watch the big ball python breeders on YouTube and you watch them only and don't go to smaller channels like this, then you probably would not found this video anyway. But I digress. You might get the feeling that there is fast money in breeding ball pythons or reptiles in general, which there is not. You really have to build a name and a brand for people to trust you enough to buy your inexpensive animals, because they are bigger breeders than you out there who breed the same or close to the same animals as you may breed, charging a little bit extra. But if you are talking about a couple of €1,000, what's another €500 to buy it from a breeder with a big name and a big reputation that really needs to be protected against a little bit less money, but somebody nobody's ever heard before, right? So for beginner breeders, generally speaking, there are some guys who are pulling it off, but those are only a handful in the world. In general, for beginner breeders, the real market for high-end ball pythons is not there. You really need to build your brand first. So it would be foolish to think that you can go fast and invest a lot of money and make a lot of money at first. It will take you years to build your brand, and in those years you can only keep doing this if you are truly in it for the hobby. And a great way to check if you are truly in it for the hobby is, for example, you really like banana pie bolts. I can't blame you, everybody likes banana pie bolts. So what you can do is buy a female pie bolt. Pie bolt females will be great for you years to come. And then buy a banana head for pie bolt male. Maybe be a little bit fancy, maybe do a banana yellow belly head pied. And then you spend some time growing those animals up. You have time to learn, you have time to read, time to watch hundreds of YouTube videos. Slowly build your confidence over the years, because you know, well, now I have this baby pie bolt female and it will take around 2 or 3 years for her to be even up to breeding size. So you will have time, you'll be a little bit more relaxed. You can, in the first years, focus on good husbandry overall, good overall husbandry. And if you dial that in and your animals are growing, they get up to breeding size. When they get up to breeding size, you can slowly work in how to breed them and what to look for, how ovulation looks, what are the sequences of the shedding, and how can you see if your female is pregnant. You can do it with confidence. And then when the clutch is laid, the total value of that clutch is not thousands of euros. The real value of the clutch is that your dream snake might be in there. That's the real value. But there was no really big money value in it. So if you mess up your incubator settings, or if your eggs get too dry, it will hurt because you fucked up something that you've worked on for years. But it will not hurt because you really need to get your investment back. Otherwise you need to sell your adult animals. So there's a difference. You can be slightly more relaxed and going more honest to yourself in there than if you did it with a lot of capital invested in it. And at the point, if you succeed, and you probably will succeed, because there are a lot of very good YouTube videos on how to breed ball pythons, how to set up eggs. If you do succeed in hatching that clutch and your dream snake is in there, that little banana pie bolt will be so much more valuable to you than if you just bought it, right? Because you can just buy something you like. A banana pie will only cost you around 200 euros, probably less. You can just buy it, but then it will just be a banana pie bolt. And now you have a banana pie bolt that you've waited for a long time, and you invested emotionally in for a long time. And now the banana pie bolt will replace your old male. You can swap it out, and you probably in the years coming to this, you've bought a few other ball pythons, because that's how it grows. You know, you buy your first snakes, they are doing well, you see something nice, you look on the internet, see some really good stuff. If you were smart enough to buy another female that was something with pie bolt or head for pie bolt, now you've got your banana pie bolt that you've bred yourself to succeed the original banana head for pie that you just bought, which is way more fulfilling. I actually did that. I really wanted banana pie bolts because, well, I love banana pie bolts, and also they do really good into the market that I'm aiming for, which is animals from around 150 euros. Because I found out that with my brand as it is now, animals in that price range sell most easy and still have a little bit of profit in them. So I thought, well, what would be a great animal to have for sale? The banana pie bolt. And I had a banana head pied, which I bought back when Roundhook Suburban started. And then I made a banana pie bolt male. And I was looking online, and one of my friends had a banana pie bolt combination that was actually better than the simple banana pie bolt that I've made. But I decided to keep my own banana piebald, because it is way cooler in a couple of years to see the lineage of banana piebalds coming from all the animals that I've bred, instead of just buying and picking up. And also, a upgraded male would not really upgrade the overall value of all the animals. So I made a decision to go for feeling instead of logical business decisions, because business-wise the difference would not have been as great, but emotionally it will be way nicer to use males that I bred myself instead of males that I bought. I hope that was clear, and I also hope that this retake didn't take 10 minutes. So it will be a very long video. Anyway, it did almost take 10 minutes. This will be a long video, but hey, that's what you get if you have time to think about the subject. Sorry. Now, why is a classic great then as a beginner ball python, especially if you want to breed pythons, which you probably do if you enter this hobby, right? Because, well, breeding is the most fun part of this hobby, in my opinion. Making all the different colors and combinations, and really breeding what you actually want, what you really want to have. If you buy an animal that you really want, you just bought it. If you spend some years with time and devotion and raising up the parents, and then getting some eggs, and then out of those eggs, one of those babies is the animal you dreamed of and you really wanted, that animal is so much more special to you than if you just bought it. So breeding ball pythons is a really fun aspect of it, but having a classic female, especially in the beginning of your journey, I think, in my opinion, is very critical. To be honest, it doesn't have to be a female. You can buy a classic male and get a more complex female and do the same pairing, as long as one of the parents have classic in it. Why is that? Well, if you have a complex animal counterpart, a male or female, bred to a classic, what you basically doing is deconstruct the genetic makeup of your high dollar animal, of your complex animal. And it really enables you to see all the different kind of morphs spread out, broken apart, maybe into single gene animals, or maybe if you have a 4 gene animal, maybe a combination of 2 or 3, and you can really learn how they interact with your own eyes, because, well, looking up photos on the internet is something different than having a pile of babies and then have to decide what is what. I'm not an expert in every morph IDing, especially not in the ones that I've worked with a lot, but even for the most, in my opinion, easy things to spot, I can see on morph market some really big mistakes of breeders who have an animal listed all wrong, and then a month later still listed all wrong. You can list an animal wrong, right? If you edit a lot of pictures, put them on morph market or something. But if a month goes by, it probably was a mistake, and you probably thought that it was correct. And then if you look at the page, sometimes they even have high priced animals, which, in my opinion, it's really unacceptable. How can you breed high value animals if you can't really properly ID very simple combinations? And I think you really don't want to be a breeder like that. You want to be well prepared and armed with true wisdom about how to ID animals, and not just winging it. Another great advantage of having some lower value animals as your breeding stock in the beginning, or a classic, having a preference of having a classic ball python in there, is that your clutches are less valuable. So I think it really makes a difference, especially if you are inexperienced. If you have a clutch with a potential value of maybe up to 500 euros, or if you have a clutch with a potential value up to 10,000 euros. I can imagine that if you don't have a lot of experience, having a high value clutch would really stress you out, because you don't know what you are doing yet. You've only seen some videos on the internet on how to breed Ballpythons, and maybe read a care sheet or two, maybe even talk to a breeder, but that's about it. And now you have a pile of eggs that you need to do something with that is potentially very valuable, and the stakes are high. If the stakes are not that high, money-wise, I think you can be more relaxed on this whole journey, really. And one of those points of consideration is, do you put your eggs in the incubator, or do you let the mother incubate her eggs, doing some maternal incubation? And I have to be honest, even with all the experience I had, in the first season, last season, I tried maternal incubation on a bigger scale, and I had no problem at all leaving my low value clutches with the mother. Those clutches that only produce some simple piebalds or some other combinations I thought would really sell well in the normal reptile keeper community, because those clutches were, well, at highest with a value up to around €1,000 per clutch. I didn't felt afraid to leave those eggs with the mother and to just see what happens, if it goes great or bad. Even though I had some experience with maternal incubation, knowing that most of the time it's perfectly fine, and you don't lose that much eggs as you might think going into it. But I had one clutch which I really doubted, because I've bred a very small exotic female to a desert ghost male, and the female was small and I didn't thought she would go, but she did. She did lay a clutch of eggs, and she wasn't neatly wrapped around all eggs, but she was neatly wrapped around 4 of the 6 eggs. Of course, I took those 2 eggs aside, put them in the incubator, but the 4 eggs that were into the coils of the mother I left behind, knowing that for certain, because I've bred a visual to a visual, every egg contains a baby with a value of, at that point, at least €600 a piece. But I still did it because I felt confident. It was a little bit late into the season, so I already saw what happened on a bigger scale of things, how good the mothers can actually do it. So I felt confident. But if I had the experience with classics doing that all of my snake keeping career, I would not have felt that same urge to take over and put them in the incubator. That was a very long way of hopefully making a point on why it is crucial, in my personal opinion, to start off with lower value animals, so you can really appreciate the value of the animal itself, and also be a bit more relaxed on trying to learn about how to do things, because there is not multiple year salaries involved in your investment. Now it's just a hobby. You see where it will take you, which is a much healthier mindset, in my opinion, to go and do about things. Sorry for the noise. One of the males trying to get out of the tub and into a female tub, which is quite annoying, but well, what do you do? And then last but definitely not least, and also, well, part of the reason why I redid this video, of course, is that if you look at classics, you can understand how quality works with animals. If you buy morphs, you have high quality and low quality varieties of every morph. You have a high quality pastels and low quality pastels, and a high quality pastel might mean that it's very high yellow. It also might mean that it's very deep blacks, and that it browns out. It's okay, because you're really going for the really deep black. And those are all a little bit loose understandings, in my opinion. because what's really going on is that underneath that pastel, that high or low quality pastel, somewhat depending on your own view on things, underneath that animal is a classic ball python, right? And every classic ball python brings with itself some variety in its appearance. And those varieties can be color, base color, we call this color the base color, or the highlighting color, I call this the highlighting color, I don't know, or the saddle colors, I think is the proper name. So this will be the base color, and the lighter browns or the saddle colors, we call this the saddles. And also, now that we are doing some terminology, we call this the alien heads. Well, this is a poor example of an alien head, but this with the two eyes, and sometimes even with a little mouth, is why we call it an alien head. Yeah, so the variety of those classics can be in coloration, but they can also be in pattern, right? Some of the animals, of the classics even, have a little bit more of a reduced pattern, where there's no hole in the alien heads at all. Some have very classic alien heads with with every alien head having two eyes, and some have only one, or a mixture of all of those, like this animal. This is my second animal of all times. His name is Dos, because he was second. And you can see in Dos that he has a little bit more of a browner color, and I will pull out Sparky, my first, who is also a classic male, to show you the difference. Now here you go. This is Sparky, and this is Dos, the animal I showed earlier. And you can see, if you look closely, the difference in color. This animal is more brown, this one is more a little bit grayish, and you can also see that this animal has a completely different color and pattern into the peppercorns, and a lot more white. And the base color is way darker than the base color of this animal. This is more dark brown. This is almost black. You get my point? Now, handling two ball pythons is a little bit of a hassle. So I put away Dos and I kept Sparky around. You can also see that with Sparky, some of those alien heads got reduced into stripes, and then some of those alien heads got fused together. Here is a great example of that. And here is a great example of alien heads without sparks. And then here on the back you can see it's almost a leopard-like. Now you can imagine that having these two varieties of classic underneath, for example, pastel, who make a lot of difference on the visual appearance of those animals. Because things that we label as morphs are usually one single gene. Now, the only thing that we have figured out now, due to genetic testing, is there's a ghost. We know that there's a ghost A, B, and C, meaning there are at least three different genes who are really at play at the quality of the animal that we have. And what we also know is that if you have a new gene from the wild or just popping up from a collection, that over the time, when that animal get bred and then bred again and then bred again, you know, going down the tree of all the breeders, at some point the animal looks a little bit different. Sorry, not the animal, the morph. The morph cell looks a little bit different, and that is because that original animal had a certain package that came with it, a certain set of different genetics that came with that exact morph. And those packet of genetics were for example the base color or the saddle color of that animal, of the pattern of that animal. But over time, being bred to different animals, of course, going down and getting watered down. So what you get left with is the expression of that single gene, and then combined with the aesthetics of the animal that's lying underneath it, which can be great or less great. But having a classic Ballpython would really help you to learn about that. If you look at different classics, you can see the difference, and hopefully now you will understand what that means for all the non-classic animals that you have, and what creates high quality or lower quality. That also means that if you have a for example, you want to make very dark mahoganies, and you bought a mahogany that is dark but not as dark as you would like. If you have a classic that has really black base color and even really black of a dark brown cell colors, you can use that classic to really pump up the quality of your Mojave. You can line breed it, and that line breeding, that reverse line breeding, is actually what causes all the other morphs to lose the quality. And that's why very big breeders, who probably understand this concept, have so much high value animals or high quality animals, because they understand that how line breeding works, and you don't have to pair back to the same parent or to brother and sister to do some line pairing. You can also pick out unrelated animals with the same wanted traits that you want into your specific morph to increase the quality of what you think is high quality. Hopefully that was clear and not too aggressive.